the moment you don't even know when it hits you because it comes and goes very fast. Like I was saying with sir, I was having lunch and it was actually my friend who saw the results had come. So she told that results had come. She had seen the results also, but she had the wisdom not to tell me. She just told, see, it's a very good result. But one more friend was there who didn't have the wisdom to let me see. He was just shouting around, telling that he has scored all India rank 41 and all. Meaning, I'm just kidding that he didn't have wisdom and all, but he was just too happy, I think. So I heard it from his mouth first. Then I had to see it with my own eyes to believe it. So that's how it happened. It was during our lunch in my office. So it took some time to realize this. So that was a real moment. Very good feeling. Yes, yes. Immediately I called home. I was talking to my family, and I didn't have lunch. My lunch just went to waste. So yeah, it was a very good feeling. It's worth working for all of you preparing.
Hi, sir. Can you explain about your background? When did you start the IAS exam preparation?
Yeah, I graduated in 2016 after BSc Physics. Then after that, I directly started preparation because I knew that doing PG may not help. I was very sure that civil services is my calling, so I didn't want to waste my time in PG. Though PG is a very good option because BSc is just a 3-year degree. So right away I started. 2017 was my first attempt. I missed the prelims by I don't know 2 marks. I think it was a very close call and a wake up call for me because we cannot take anything for granted. I was scoring good in mock tests and all, but somehow I missed it very closely. Then I went back and analyzed. Then I found many minute intricacies that I had not been taking regular mock tests, though I was reading good and though I thought I was retaining everything. While actually giving the test, I was not able to recall. And I was not reducing my error percentage because prelims is all about elimination and you just have to be in the top 10,000 or so to reach the mains. So it's all about the spontaneous skill set that you have in managing the particular 100 number of questions. So I was not attempting the ideal number of questions earlier. So that part I improved. So next attempt in 2018, I went to interview again. Again, uh, after interview, I missed out very closely, hardly by 4 or 5 marks, I think. But I was very young. I was 22 during my first interview, so I was nervous. But I still believed I had it in me. Somehow I missed it. No problem. I started from scratch again. Third attempt, prelims mains, I went to interview. That attempt I cleared also with 496 rank. Then again, I gave fourth attempt. I didn't clear prelims. So it was again a reality check for me. I mean, just because you went till interview and you have a rank doesn't mean that you will clear every prelims. So nothing is granted in this examination. Everybody is equal. When the prelims start, it's like a reset button. Everybody has to start from scratch. This 12th fail movie, that song comes from restart, restart like that. So like that only it is. Then fourth attempt I couldn't clear. Fifth attempt again I gave. Again I came in the rank list with 389 rank this time. So still I was not satisfied. Then again this was my final attempt, sixth attempt I gave, and it landed me here. So that is the summary of my preparation process journey.
Was getting into the Indian Administrative Service your childhood dream?
No, not childhood dream, I would say, sir. Basically, the aspects and the values driving civil services perhaps has been staying with me from childhood because I studied in a system called Satya Sai School of Education System. So there is a heavy emphasis on value education. There is a heavy emphasis on all-round development. For example, every week we had moral education classes. They used to take lessons from Bible, Quran, all like it is a very secular setup there. So this value-driven system, I think, was internalized by me very strongly. That apart from the fact that my father is already in a PSU, Tangerco, so PSU owned by the Tamil Nadu state government. So I had some exposure in government sector, meaning the kind of responsibilities and power that the government job gives you. My father is also very active in community service. He has a foundation called Manidam along with his friends. They keep doing community service. And I noticed that every year when my birthday comes, my father donates some amount of money to an orphanage so that people can have food and all. So this, I just kept observing this from childhood, and I think I internalized this that an ideal man or an ideal lifestyle should have aspects like these. So when I reflected on these lines towards the end of my final year in graduation, I thought civil services is the best option because there is nothing like civil services that gives you the opportunity, the diversity, the kind of challenges, and the kind of potential for growth. So I thought this is the best option for civil services, and I decided in my final year only that I should pursue this.
Did you face any challenges in the preparation journey? Can you explain the challenges?
Yes. Challenges, like a main answer, I can divide it into many types and tell physical, mental, social, psychological. But I think psychological part is the most impacting part because financially, yes, of course, I was dependent on my parents for a long amount of time. It was impacting my self-esteem as well, telling that he's been sitting in home for a long amount of time. These relatives, nosy relatives, they come and keep asking what happened when you are taking up a job. So, and for girls, it is even worse. They bring up the topic of marriage as well. So it was tough. The psychological aspect only was the toughest part for me because lots of close misses, lots of ups and downs. So I knew that this is not a sprint. But like I keep saying in many platforms, this is a marathon. So this is not to stress out people by telling that it will take a very, very long time. It may take one attempt, it may take few more attempts than that. That's not an issue. But even for one attempt, you have to be dedicated for 2 years, right? Which is a very long time. So we will have to be smart in pacing ourselves. Just it should not be like 1 week we are excited, we are motivated, we study nicely. Then next week we are down. The next week we are distracted. It should not be like that. So I knew that we had to pace ourselves, and I took it one step at a time. So for example, if I one day I'm not feeling good, it's okay. I won't study that day. I'll perhaps reach out to my friends and talk to them for that one day, and next day I'll compensate for it. So I had this micro planning kind of approach. There was no macro planning for me. I tried that also, laying out a weekly timetable for the next 6 months, telling that at the end of 6 months I'll study this much. But it didn't work out for me. Perhaps it does for some other toppers. I don't know. But for me, this practical approach, every week approach was what was working for me. That week, what was my mindset? But I also knew that I have to attempt a minimum number of mock tests for prelims, say 50, like that. I set a number in my mind. So suppose I start from December for prelims. So within the next 4 or 5 months that we have a prelims, I knew that I'll attempt 50 tests, no matter what. So like I said, if 1 week tactically I'm not feeling good, that week I take lesser number of tests and I eventually I compensate, but I ensure that I reach that number. So that's how it worked for me. Otherwise, I think the challenges are mainly mental and psychological. So this preparation journey is as much about syllabus as it is about this mental game, because some people tell that the exam is deliberately designed in such a way that it tests your patience, because civil service is one of the most stressful jobs perhaps in over the world itself. So once you are through the process and you know how to handle your emotions, I think you can manage anything. It definitely prepares you. And worst case scenario, even if you don't clear the exam, you go on to succeed in other parts of life, you will definitely be a well-rounded personality, a very emotionally intelligent personality. So emotional intelligence, very, very key skill. That is there, I think the mental part will be taken care of. Anything I can address specifically?
What was your optional subject?
Optional psychology, bro. That's why I think this much and I try to analyze.
What was your preparation strategy for prelims and mains? Should there be a separate approach for these two
Ah,
stages?
Yes, there is some overlap in syllabus for some subjects in prelims and mains, like modern history and all. But yes, the approach will be different personally for me, because the main reason is that prelims, the answer is in front of you. You just have to recollect. Recognize that in memory there is two kinds of functioning of memory. One is recollection, when you have to consciously bring it out from your memory and produce it in front of you. One is recognition. The thing is already in front of you, you just have to eliminate and recognize it. Like when you see a person you have seen long ago out of a crowd, you are able to recognize him, right? Because that stimuli helps you to recollect your memory, telling that I know him from somewhere. So this is recognition. But recollection is something different. Suppose I ask you, what was your childhood friend in your third standard? What was his name? This you will have to recollect. But it's a good possibility that if that friend walks in front of you right now, you will recognize him easily. So in that sense, recognition and recollection are two different processes. Prelims is about recognition. Mains is about recollection. That is the difference. And if we understand this part, the whole game changes, bro. I'm telling you. Because prelims, that's why elimination and all is stress so much, because you just have to recognize the answer is right there in front of you. So of course, from this prelims onwards, elimination also they've eliminated. The kind of options they are giving, it is very different. But yeah, the main theoretical difference between prelims and mains is this much. Syllabus wise, yes, there are commonalities, but for mains, of course, you will have to go a little bit deeper in every subject. You will have to be more analytical. You will have to be more crisp. And since it is recollection, it is an original answer that you will have to produce. But recognition, I mean, prelims is just about being in the top 10,000 or 12,000. That's it. You just have to cross the cutoff. It's a qualifying stage. So ensure that you have good stress management skills. You have a sufficient number of mock tests behind you, and you attempt the sufficient number of questions. This is what I learned in my first few attempts when I didn't do well. I attempted only 70 odd questions, because you should know that given the difficulty level, how much errors you will make. So don't take too much risk so that your error percentage goes very high. And even though you have sufficient number of positive marks, the error percentage is so high that the negative marks will bring you down below the cutoff. So that should not happen. So focus on reducing your error percentage. Don't focus on just the positive part of it. That's all about prelims.
Hi sir, how did you approach the vast syllabus? What was your method of study?
Method of study. There is no specific method of study and all. I mean, like I said, I don't try to bring up grand plans telling that I'll study this much in the next 3 months or 6 months. It never worked for me. I try to be consistent, bro. Method of study is that I try to be in a good headspace. Like I said, since I'm a student of psychology, maybe I'm overstressing it. But for me, my mental health and loving myself are much more important. Because if I'm not in a good mental state, I can never be that much productive. Even if I try to sit in front of my books for 10 hours a day, if you're not going to be productive, if you keep thinking that, array, my friends are doing so much good jobs, they are going to US, they are going to a trip, it's not going to work, right? You go on a trip, no, go on a trip, but have the emotional intelligence and self-control, telling that once I have gone to a trip, next 3 months I won't go. I'll sit and study, attend sufficient number of tests, and there are many strategies, right? This self-rewarding strategy is it. So you tell this 10 tests I'll take. If in 5 tests I score above this much marks, I'll go for a movie. So it's all about self-regulation. If you are going to regulate a district as an IAS officer, the least you can do is to regulate an individual. Correct? If that much self-control we cannot have, that much regulation power we cannot have, I think it will be tough in later part of life. So that's how I used to motivate myself. Even I was a lazy student. Like, it's not like one day I was born as a great person or something like that. 2 days before, I was also a normal person. Only after results came, it is like a surreal moment for me. So it is wise to accept the reality that we are flawed. We are definitely flawed. We can be lazy. We can be inconsistent. But you should also be wise enough to pick up yourself. You should not compare yourself with the others. Just because others are consistent, don't put that pressure on you. You should do justice to yourself. They say, no, start thinking about your why. Start thinking about why you remembered. I mean, why you started this journey in the first place. For me, the best motivation is my own photograph when I started. I used to take a photograph and I used to think how innocent this fellow is. This fellow is believing in me, thinking that I will put efforts and making him an IAS officer. And what am I doing right now? If you have a conscience, it will prick you if you're not going in the right path. If you are going in the right path, it will let you good. You're on the right path. You may be inconsistent a few days, but on an average, are you growing? On an average, are you consistent? And that consistency will compound your growth. So this sort of mental psychological approach is my method of study. Otherwise, it's all usual. But the syllabus part, I don't have to tell you. It's conventional. Do as much revisions, minimize your sources, take as many tests as possible. This is just, I can repeat it to boredom. But I think the other part is where there is no emphasis, and I wanted to talk about it more. So yeah, pardon me if I keep repeating it.
Can you share your UPSC personality test experience?
Personality test, I think it went well, sir. This time I had BB Swine board. They asked a very minimum number of questions. They were more factual than I expected also. But I was also more confident in telling that, no, I don't know factual answers also. It was mostly DAF based this time. They covered everything comprehensively. My hobbies, my place of origin, my work profile, my optional, my background, graduation, time gap between job, everything they covered. Everything possibly you can think of in DAF, they covered. So it was more or less on expected lines, I can say. And it helped to prepare beforehand, because unlike previous interviews, this time I took a conscious decision to maintain a separate notebook for interview, and I wrote down questions on all the areas from DAF, and luckily it was more or less DAF based. So everything and anything I was able to preempt and think that, okay, I had prepared this question that time and I'll answer like that. So it was good this time.
What do you suggest? A do-or-die approach without a backup option, or the preparation approach by keeping a plan B? Should there be a backup plan?
That is a very good question. Actually, I also had a very personal journey regarding plan B. Earlier, I used to think do or die is the best approach. Don't have a plan B. If you have a plan B, you will think anyway there is a plan B, so your efforts in plan A will reduce. So I used to think that that was the do or die is the best approach. Go without a plan B. But later I realized that pragmatic. See, these are two different approaches. Being idealistic is do or die approach. You just have to, theoretically think that plan B will pull you down. But the other is pragmatic approach. You have a plan B, and that perhaps will give you mental peace, telling that, okay, something is there behind me and it will improve your confidence. So it can work both ways. This I realized much later. I was a proponent of plan, not going with plan B and this do or die approach. But I think both are equally valid, and you will have to do, perhaps doing a cost benefit analysis will help you understand which plan is better for you. So for me personally, the initial few attempts, not having a plan B didn't affect me that much. But as we grow later, perhaps you'll appreciate it better when we age better, when we reach at 25, when we reach at marriageable age, when we, when we see others getting good jobs, then you will have to think twice about not having a plan B. So, I mean, it depends. It depends on what kind of a personality you are, what drives you better, whether having a plan B or not having a plan B, what point of journey you are in, and this cost benefit analysis, how like suppose you are towards the fag end of your preparation journey, like some after 3 or 4 attempts, what is the cost that you are giving to remain in this preparation process? Is it financial? Is there no other breadwinner in your family? Are you financially good? Is the family good enough to support you? Are you facing any other pressure? Are you mentally in a good place? Again, circling back to this mental aspect. If you are not mentally in a good place, it's well and good. You can leave this and perhaps pursue other journeys. Again, I'm not discouraging. I'm just encouraging you to think a little bit more broad-mindedly. You can keep an open mind about it. Don't have an unhealthy fixation towards this exam. That's what I realized. When you have too much of a fixation towards this exam, thinking that this is my only life, I will become a civil servant and all, which is good. Of course, we are working towards the result. But when we are too much attached to it, even a slight setback will disappoint us too much, right? One mock test, if we don't do properly, like one adverse comment from our mentor, will also put us down so much. That's because we are attached so much. So I think over the period of time, I've become like that. Not too attached also, not too detached also. You go into that Zen mode, that Dhoni kind of a mode. So I keep quoting him everywhere I go. Even all my interviews from yesterday in my news channels, Dhoni keeps coming up because I don't know, I keep relating to him. Maybe because I'm a CSK fan. But you just have to trust the process. Ultimately, if you trust the process and just do whatever is there in your control properly, the results will take care of itself. But yeah, I'm digressing. The question you asked is, plan B, is it good or not? Again, I don't have a perfect answer. Both sides have a very valid argument, and there is no one answer to this. You just have to think about yourself deeply and pick a side and stick with it. Or perhaps you can change sides also, like I did. I was this side, then I came to this side. That's why I took up a job in NABARD, because I felt at that point in my life, having been dependent on my parents for 5 years, it was not fair to remain there and put the additional pressure on them. So they were gracious enough to support me, of course. So yeah, it's a little bit of confusion.
Did the job help you in the preparation?
Yeah, what helped me, I think, is because I had given many attempts without a job. So I had all that accumulated knowledge, accumulated experience. So that perhaps helped me. But coming to the job itself, it was tough. I was able to give only 3 to 4 hours a day. So mornings I try to read newspapers before going to office. And while coming back, after coming back from office, I focus more on test series, because if I open a book and try to read, I tend to get sleepy. But when we attempt a test, we are in that puzzle mode. No, we are trying to solve a problem. So our mind is more active. So that's how I try to manage. Yeah.
Should an IAS aspirant join a coaching to succeed in the UPSC CSE? What is the role of coaching institutes in your success?
I think it's definitely important whether you go through an institute or you are able to access a personal mentor without an institute also, having guidance will definitely help you. Institutes, particularly if you can afford it, will help because they have experienced people there. There are people who have been there and done it, so they know exactly where you're going correct and where you're going wrong. Because without them, especially in this information age where there is information overload everywhere, you don't know what you're doing correctly and what you're doing wrongly. No, like right now also there is an opinion that spectrum has gone out of fashion, modern history, we'll have to follow other books. So many people are giving so many things, but I think institutes kind of give you a channelized approach towards preparation. One, because of their experience. Two, because of the data bank they have. They have good question banks. They conduct so many test series, and also they help you to stay in a regular cycle. Without them, it will be much tougher. Of course, it is possible. There are many people who have cleared without the help of institutes. But I personally feel it is good to take help when they're offering help. Again, if you can afford it. There are many places which give at a very nominal price, perhaps like ClearIAS. So I think it is a good avenue there.
How did ClearIAS Academy help you in your UPSC journey? Very often, when students Google for any topic relevant to the exam preparation, they land on the ClearIAS free study materials section. Have you used the ClearIAS website for your preparation and note-making? Can you also brief us about the UPSC interview guidance offered by ClearIAS?
My association with ClearIAS is very brief. But yeah, I've whenever I Google like some particular sentence from syllabus, when I Google about it, at least in polity or associated aspects, ClearIAS will be one of the top results, and that's how I kept coming across this website called ClearIAS. I've read sir's articles on many topics. I don't remember exactly what topics, but of course, since it's a long process of time, I've been exposed to the website quite an amount of time. So I knew this is a credible institution. And interestingly, after I took up a job in Trivandrum, I wanted to go for a mock interview or one-on-one session with just any one institute, just to build up my confidence, because I was getting back into this interview mode after a long time. Then I thought, okay, ClearIAS is in Trivandrum. It is one of the credible institutes in this place, and sir has good experiences guiding people. So why not try ClearIAS like that? And then I thought of contacting sir. So when I basically came here only for interview guidance, and I had a one-on-one session with sir. It was a very fruitful session, and like I said, he himself had covered DAF quite comprehensively, including work profile, personal questions, hobbies, psychology especially, and some commonalities were there even in the main interview. For example, this Maslow's hierarchy topic, sir also touched upon it, and even in the final interview they asked about it. So I think my association has been fruitful with ClearIAS.
You have a highly consistent track record concerning success in the UPSC exam. Even in attempts where you missed the selection, it was a close miss. This is something which many candidates neglect. Without a proper system in place, it is difficult to achieve success. Your consistent success shows that the processes you adopted were the right ones. Can you share your daily schedule? Were you a morning person? How many hours did you study? What was your timetable?
Like I said, I'm not that extreme disciplined candidate, and if I tell my schedule, perhaps people get demotivated here, because it was not very good in the initial stages at least. But again, I was not a morning kind of a guy. It is perfectly fine. If you are not able to get up in the early morning and study, it is perfectly fine. I'm more of a night kind of a guy. So I mostly stay up in late nights and I study. Coming to schedule, when I was full-time into preparation, the time I wake up varies depending on when I sleep the previous night. But at least some 7 to 8 hours consistently I used to give for preparation fully. Out of which around 1 hour 75 minutes or so I spend for newspaper, and the rest goes for static preparation also. With this also will vary, like depending upon whether it is for prelims or for mains. What I focus on will vary. For example, for prelims, I was most comfortable in certain subjects like polity or economics. But my weak areas, which I understood after giving multiple tests, were ancient history and medieval history. So over the course of time, I reduced the amount of time I spent on comfortable subjects. I increased the amount of time I spent on weak subjects. And I gave a lot of tests. I gave from any institute I can lay my hand on. I didn't discriminate between them. I didn't think, this institute is good, this institute is bad. Ultimately, these are 100 potential questions. And even one, if it can repeat in the main, exam, you will be benefited, right? So that was the main thing. And again, schedule wise, apart from studying, I definitely dedicated time for my hobbies. Of course, it reduced just before exam, perhaps 2 months before prelims, perhaps much lesser extent during mains. But somehow I managed to keep up my hobbies, because otherwise I'll go crazy. I am not that kind of a person who will be able to study and just study without doing anything. It will be very tough for me. Of course, I was a natural introvert, so I didn't seek out much social relations, or I didn't socialize that much. I didn't go out to that much, which is also not a good strategy. I later realized, but it was easier for me to stay aloof. But just studying was not helping for me. I used to run regularly, at least about half an hour a day, and at least one movie per week I used to watch. Without that, I cannot let off my steam. It's like a pressure cooker, right? It keeps building up, and somewhere you will have to let it off. Otherwise, we'll have a mental breakdown. So I definitely focused on having me time. I definitely focused on setting micro targets. I mean, I can talk about theory, telling that SMART goal theory, specific, measurable, action oriented, reliable, time bound, and all. But I didn't follow that, so I am not going to talk about it. But what I did follow was this tactical approach, which I was telling. This weekly target I used to have, 1 day less, 1 day more, compensate for it. Similarly, on a monthly basis, if I have target, 1 week less, 1 week more, but I will achieve that. So be a smart kind of a person. Again, coming back to CSK, they are a very good team because they don't rely on pre-laid out strategies. They go to field, they see what is the situation there, and they change the strategy accordingly. And that has been my strategy as well. I don't know if it's a good strategy. I don't know if it will work for everybody. But this, I realize that this is who I am. I cannot be a person laying down a strict schedule and follow it very strictly. So, and I think it works. If it keeps you in a good mental space, I think it will definitely work. So, what I would recommend is find out what kind of a person you are, whether you are a morning person, evening person, whether you are a weekly timetable kind of a person or a daily target kind of a person, whether you can study and study and study alone, or whether you need to have hobbies, you need to have social relations to keep up your mental health. Find out who you are, tick the correct boxes, then pick up those good habits which will help you run in the long run. So that's the thing.
How many mock exams do you practice every year before prelims? Was it 50 always?
Yes, sir. I used to target 50. That was my standard target. Yes. Including previous year's questions, because previous year's questions also I'll include. Yeah, including that 45 to 50 mock tests I used to take. That is good enough, I feel. Before mains, there is no set number. I used to subscribe to one good test series, which by default will cover about 10 to 15 tests, all included, I think. So that is a good approach. But what I do recommend is doing daily answer writing. That is a non-negotiable. We cannot do away without it. So just watch one moment. So perhaps the only time you don't have to do it is the 6 months before prelims. Prelims is, like I said, it is a very tight game where the margins of error are very, very small. So that 6 months, no problem. If you can do well and good, but you can try to focus fully on prelims before prelims, 5 to 6 months. Other than that, every day, any day, you have to write at least 2 to 3 questions a day, because only then you will gradually keep improving upon not just the content part, but the presentation part, the speed of writing part, the handwriting part, the flow chart part. All parts you will keep improve only if you keep writing a lot. So write a lot. Apart from test series, I think daily answer writing I used to do regularly. I don't negotiate. I mean, compromise with it at all.
Having achieved what you aspired to for a long time, are you fully satisfied now? What is the present feeling?
I don't know, sir. I'm yet to understand the full feeling. It's been kind of a mix for me. But I think only when I enter the service, I'll know. Right now, still in kind of partial celebratory mode and partial reflection mode till looking back at my journey. I was telling, no, I used to think about my photo during the preparation journey. So now I look back at the photo and tell, okay, don't worry, the future you has satisfied you like that. So I think the best motivation is your past photo. Trust me, it will drive you crazy. Nothing else works. This I've realized.
Do you miss writing the prelims exam again?
No, sir. I don't want to write again. I'm done.
Hi, sir. Can you give some tips regarding mains answer writing? How easy was writing answers for you?
It was tough initially because when we try to initially write, we'll be more focused on formulating the content, because that's when we are trying to formulate, perfect our strategy and answer writing style and all. Initially, I used to finish out of 20 questions, 11, 12 was my best. I'm telling about my very, very initial days. But only with practice, we are able to complete. Yeah, it is doable, definitely doable. Little challenging to write 20 questions in 3 hours and to write 9 such papers within 2 weekends in the original mains. But yeah, it is definitely doable. We can do it. With practice, we can definitely do it. Because in mains, like you said, since time constraint is there and space constraint is there, you should understand how best to use the space. If you just keep writing words, the examiner who's going through many, many papers per day, he or she will be very frustrated, right? And out of perhaps 10,000 odd people, you should be the top 1,000 or 2,000 to reach the interview stage. So you'll have to set yourself apart. So think about how best you can use the given time, 7 minutes, and given space, the 150 words or 250 words. How best sense you can make. So if I can convey meaning to you in 20 words, can you do it in 10 words? This part is where this will get perfected only when you write multiple answers. When you write an answer within 7 minutes, then when you're in a relaxed mind, you look back at your answer. Then you will be like, Array, this doesn't make sense. I'm trying to convey a point, but I'm taking 20 to 30 words for it. Can I do it in 10 words? If you gain that ability, then in the same 30 words, you can write thrice as many points, right? So then the density of your answer will increase in terms of how much sense you are making. That's what is important. So yeah, it's doable.
For full-time aspirants, they have the choice
Yes.
of either online or offline coaching. But for working professionals and college students, there are
Okay.
time constraints. Of course, online coaching can be adopted by working professionals and college students, particularly those platforms which offer flexible classes like the recorded ones. Can you share your coaching experience? How did you build your foundation? Was that through offline coaching or online coaching? Was your preparation textbook intensive, mock exam oriented, or video classes oriented?
Okay. Initially, I used to attend regular classes. I used to go to coaching institute regularly, offline. But again, I cannot compare my experience with working professionals who start out newly, because right from start they are working professionals and they have to build up their knowledge base while being working professionals. But for me, fortunately, while being a full-time student, I built up my knowledge. While being working professional, I just had to revise. So I didn't build up my knowledge base while being a working professional. So I didn't rely on classes or textbooks that much. I did rely on few textbooks, but I had built up my notes and I had so much accumulated notes. So I didn't have to rely that much on classes or videos or that much. I think I relied on my notes, and with efficient time management and consistency, of course, we can. Yes. In my case, it was how it was. Yes. In my case, that's how it was.
This year's exam is very near. Can you provide some last-minute tips?
Okay. Last minute tips. Nothing, bro. Like I said, attempt as many tests as possible, because test taking will not just test your knowledge. It will help you in the future also. Meaning, it is a mode of revision only. Instead of just going through the books and revising only in the form of books, you can take tests also to revise. What I'm trying to convey is that some people don't take tests because they think they are not prepared well enough. They'll think, I'll read it fully, I'll understand it fully, then only I'll take a test. But you will never reach that satisfaction level of preparation, and you'll keep postponing test taking. And suddenly one day you'll realize, only 2 months are there, I'm not taking enough tests. Then the stress will build up, and in all possibility, we may not do well in prelims. So don't postpone test taking. My advice is start right away, 5 to 6 months before prelims. Join a good test series like ClearIAS perhaps, who conducts weekly tests regularly. No problem if you get low scores. Absolutely no problem. You should not stay low for a long time. Initially, no problem if you get low scores, but be consistent. It will definitely improve, because if you are taking one test per week, perhaps just 1 or 2 days before the test, you'll have to spend for the test. remaining 3-4 days you can read whatever you want if you have your own schedule, or if the academy provides you a schedule, stick to that. But for prelims, definitely test taking is most important. And prelims is a game where you cannot predict anything. UPSC has been throwing surprises like anything. So don't try to predict. Don't try to predict the pattern, telling that this much percentage from polity, this much percentage from agri, from environment. So I'll focus more on the subject. No, give equal importance to all subjects, because you don't know. Last day they may pull a googly and increase the percentage for, I don't know, art and culture, and maybe you're less prepared for it. Don't take that risk. Give equal importance to all subjects. Take as many tests as possible. And time management, definitely. Regardless of the difficulty level of the test, you should be able to attempt that golden zone of questions, like 80 to 85. So perhaps the difficulty level, if it's a little easier, you can attempt more, because the probability for error is less. If the difficulty level is higher and the probability for error also is higher, then you'll have to think carefully, like whether should I take more risk or stop there at 80 to 85. For me, 85 is a golden number. I try to reach it regardless of the difficulty level. If it is a little easier, I try to go near 90. If it is more on the difficult side, I stick with 85 or 86. I don't take more risk. There are people who attempt 100 questions also and they have been clearing. It works perhaps for them, but know your golden zone. So this I found out with multiple trial and error approach and my own error percentage. Then I again do a subject-wise analysis. Like I said, when I was talking earlier, I realized ancient and medieval history is my weak subject. Weak subject. How did I get to know that? Only when I attempted multiple tests. So find your strengths, find your weaknesses, focus more on your weaknesses, and give equal importance to all subjects. The rest you should do it well. No secret. No, I preferred offline, sir, because the original environment is offline. So even to shade each answer, it will take a couple of seconds. And 100 into couple of seconds is a considerable amount of time. That if you don't account into while you are taking online exam, I think it will be tough. Personally, I preferred offline exams. Maybe starting you can start with online, but at least the last 4 months stick to offline. Have a big, I don't know, binding that bound book of that OMR sheets or individual sheets. Practice on OMR sheets. That is better. For?
Can you give tips for beginners who just started IAS exam preparation?
This much time I was talking for beginners only. I was not talking for experts. I mean, there is nothing specific, bro. Be consistent. Just start from basics. If you're not reading newspaper regularly, start from newspaper reading. Dedicate a specified amount of time for newspaper reading. Then stick to minimum of resources. Most of the beginners, like me when I was a beginner, they do this mistake that they go after many sources and they try to be the expert from all sources for all subjects. Not necessary. Stick to one or NCERT is definitely a must. 6 to 10 definitely must. Apart from that, one complementary book per subject. You can take that approach. Like for polity, whatever, Lakshmikant or any other book which works for you. Similarly, for all subjects, have a complementary book apart from NCERTs. That is well and good for basic preparation for prelims. Apart from continuous newspaper reading, and have your own personal notes, both for subjects also and for newspaper reading also. Like what I used to do is I maintain many apps for preparation. I use Evernote. So in Evernote, I used to divide into thematic notes like defense, science and tech, IR, polity, public issues, economy, like that. And whichever current affairs I come across and which I feel is relevant for the exam, I used to put it under that head. And within these conceptual notes, there will be a prelim section, there will be a main section. Suppose I feel one topic, there is a very good analytical article. There is so much fodder. Like for example, right now, simultaneous elections is obviously a hot topic. So you keep coming across multiple articles and perhaps some will offer a new perspective. You won't remember it later on. And so take up that point, just put it in your notes in small 1 or 2 sentences, perhaps under the main section. In prelim section, your focus should be more on the things that you tend to forget. For example, prelims, so many questions are on national park, biodiversity, biosphere reserves, where was this site found, what is the distance from this state to this state. Like so many factual questions are there, no? That tests your memory. So that has to go in the prelim section of your notes. So have an intelligent set of notes, and finally, just revise your own notes. If you have time, go for current affairs compilations. But I think having a personal notes is much better. So yeah, newspaper reading, basic books, notes, revision, multiple tests. Or what else we want? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. All the best.